Slap me if you've heard this one before. The Rings of Power has great visuals. Looks great on screen. Probably heard that a million times, and I'm very thankful that I am on, this is on a computer, because if this was in reality and all of y'all were directly in front of me, I would have probably been slapped into oblivion by now, because that seems to be what everyone is saying about this show, that it looks good. Well, of course it looks good. It's supposed to look good. It was $1 billion to create it. What did you think it was going to look like? Did you think it was going to look like a, just some kind of independent film? I mean, the CW, I mean, what did you think it was going to look like? I don't know. That's my early rant, but I'll get past that and I'll get to The Rings of Power, episode 1 and 2. This is going to be my review here on Rants for Us. I just want to start off before saying anything anymore. I like Lord of the Rings. I really do. I love the movies. I've read the books. In fact, I just actually got done reading The Hobbit again not too long ago. I'm not an expert on Lord of the Rings, and I'm not a super fan of Lord of the Rings either. I do enjoy the lore, but I don't know it like many others do. I'm not obsessed about it like I am with, let's say, Star Wars, Harry Potter, and so forth. So please forgive me if I'm not really that familiar with a lot of the names, and I'm not as pissed off by some of the changing of some of the characters. Because frankly, I probably have read about those characters and totally forgot about them. So I'm just judging this by mainly what I have seen on screen. I'm not judging it by the changes that is made from the books to the screen. So let's just get right on into it. Things that I enjoyed. And let's start with what I was talking about. Great visuals. But you want to know what kind of did drive me crazy a little bit is, have you ever watched those old I don't know, real world kind of things, or like the OC or anything like that? Those reality based shows. They always show those, Los Angeles from, the sky, or, wherever they're going, they show these beautiful places from the sky. That's the way they did this over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, I don't need to see this over again. Show it maybe like once or twice an episode, but not every time that we switch between characters. That just kind of drove me crazy a little bit. But the visuals do look good. Pretty. It's pretty. Again, it's $1 billion to make it, guys. This shouldn't be this shocking. But if you look here on the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, on any of these, comments, they're like, well, it looks beautiful. Duh. Of course it looks beautiful. And then, I'm sorry, that's just a little pet peeve of mine. Like, people are shocked. Well, it looks good. Man, everything else could suck about it, but hey, it looks good. Overall, I thought the scores were good too. I thought music seemed to fit, kind of had a little personal feel to it. I enjoyed it personally. I thought it had a really good introduction as well. This was a show that I wanted to watch with my wife. And I was a little bit afraid to do that because she absolutely knows nothing about Lord of the Rings. But I thought they did a really good job of explaining in a very short period of time what had transpired and what was currently going to be seen on screen. Now, I thought they did a really good job about that. I did. Were there some parts about it that kind of did bother me a little bit? Yeah. Maybe would have liked to see Morgoth or something happen on screen. But besides that, I thought they overall did a really good job of the introduction. I wish more shows would do that, to be honest. I feel like shows that have introductions like that want to get into it, I feel like they leave a lot to be wanted, and I feel like this show actually does a really good job of it. It really takes a lot of history and a lot of things that go on, and it kind of just, sums it up perfectly, I think. So I did actually enjoy this. Characters like Princess Diza. Now, the actress who has played that has done a terrible job of promoting this show. She has gone on television and talked about representation and all of this, and really got fans to really hate her in a lot of ways. But I actually thought she was pretty good in the show. I really did. She didn't show up till episode 2, but I did actually enjoy her. I enjoyed the dwarves. I thought they were really cool. I enjoyed looking at the city of the dwarves. That was really nice. I enjoyed the little banter of the dwarves. I enjoyed just everything about them, to be honest with you. And that was kind of a little bit shocking to me. I didn't think I'd really like them too much. I wasn't a gigantic fan of them in, Lord of the Rings or even in the Hobbit movies or any of those. But I actually really enjoyed them in this so far. They've got a really interesting cast of characters. Really interesting culture that I kind of almost wish we were exploring in this series. I would have actually really enjoyed that a lot more. Fortunately, that is not the case. But overall, I thought Princess Diza was interesting. Another one that I actually really enjoyed in this was Elrond. I'm not going to say he did a great job. And maybe I'm just thinking about Game of Thrones and how well he did in his short, brief time as Ned Stark. But I thought he did a pretty good job in this overall. Where there's some clumpy scenes in there with some bad dialogue, of course. But that seems to be the case with a lot of things when it comes to this show. But overall, I thought he did a good job. I thought he played a good part. Probably not the guy I would have cast as Elrond. He looks nothing like the Elrond that we come to know later on, but that's neither here nor there. But overall, I thought he did a pretty good job. So those are really my two standouts, Elrond and Princess Diza, from the first 2 episodes. Like I said, the dwarves are awesome. The city looks amazing. Wish we were spending way more time. And before I go any further on the things that I liked about it, I just want to call it now that Halbrand, he's Sauron. He's Sauron. He's got to be Sauron for a number of different reasons. One, he's with our main character. And 2, they're just like giving off like really evil hints with him. And 3, he's a white guy. He's got to be Sauron. So, calling it right now, look back on this one moment when I called it, and you'll probably see that I'm probably right. So, overall, I don't know. I actually liked that guy that played Halbrand. I really did. Thought he did do a pretty good job. He brought some, like, real dialogue to this series that this series needed badly. Was real dialogue, and I thought he did a pretty good job about it. He's one of the only characters in this show that actually does just that. All right, so now that I've got all the good things about this that I've said, that I've come to think of as good, I will now get on to, like, Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, how trashy their score is and how much what I personally noticed and thought about this show and hated. I thought it was a real slow burn. That's the only way I can describe the pacing of it. When you do an episode or 2 episodes, you throw out 2 episodes, you want them to be the 2 episodes that really entice people to move forward. Otherwise, just release the first one. I don't really know what the second episode enticed more than the first one did. I was more actually intrigued after the first one than I was the second one, simply because the guy falling from the sky, I thought, well, hey, what's going on here? I was actually more interested in that. And then second episode occurred and I was like, oh crap, this is really bad. I'm not interested anymore. So I don't really understand what was the point of the 2 episodes if it's going to be such a slow burn. maybe that's just the way this show's going to be. It's going to start off really adequate, maybe not as good as what people would think, and then it's going to get better as we go. That might actually be the case, and hey, if that's the case, that's great. But overall, I felt like the pacing was really off. Did not really enjoy all the storylines that was just going all over the place. You know, look, if you're going to make Galadriel the main character, if you're going to do that, let's talk about her for a while. Let's build on on that character. But no, they took us to this place and that place and this place and that place. And it felt like a soap opera. Every time that there would be something good that would be happening, or something interesting that would be happening to that one character, then they would switch to another character. And I'm like, why? You're finally doing something right. Why would you change it? It kind of drove me crazy a little bit. I just feel like there's too many characters in this show. I don't really know what they're going with that, and why that was needed for this story to be told. You know, this story, in a lot of ways, I totally get it. Lord of the Rings, you want to go big, but you don't have to go big. You could have told an interesting story in the Second Age without it being Game of Thrones. I mean, not Game of Thrones, but Lord of the Rings-esque. And that would have been good enough. And I think that would have drawn in a lot of people. But unfortunately, they want to go big. And I just don't think that's going to work for them in this. Another thing that drove me crazy is the CGI. CGI looks... as much as, I said great real-world visuals. Great real-world visuals. Bad CGI at times. Bad CGI at times. You can really tell there's a green screen. You can really tell that it's just overly done. Like, think of Star Wars prequels and then just have them, get them drunk and have them puke all over a show, and that's basically what you get in this. Like, you get Star Wars prequel vomit. CGI vomit. That's basically it. And unfortunately, we get a lot of it. And man, is it right up in your face. And it took me out of the show more than a few times, and I did not like that aspect of it. Another thing, Galadriel. I know they want to make her the main character, and at first she didn't really bother me. But then I got done watching the second episode of it, and I got to thinking about it, and I was like, she's a really hollow character in a lot of ways. She's attached, we get that scene at the very beginning where it's her and her brother's, saving her from the bullies and so forth. And he's giving her life advice, and then that's it. That's it. And we don't get enough of that backstory for us to be like, well, she needs to spend the rest of her life taking on her brother's mission. Like, we don't get enough. Like, he sat on a log with you. Like, come on. Sat on a log with you, gave you some advice, moved along. That was all the interaction that we got. So are we supposed to say from that upon his death, that you take on his mission, and you don't even know how excited he was about that mission anyways? Like, we get nothing about that. If anything, you want to tell a story, give us a little bit of backstory about him. Let me see how much of a zealot he was that could make you into that zealot. That's what I would personally like to have seen. But I just feel like sitting on a log, talking about, bullies and whatnot, or ships sinking and rocks, whatever that isn't enough for you to spend the next couple hundred years being obsessed with Sauron. Doesn't make any sense to me. Millions of people died. You're not the only one yet. You're the only one that seems to be obsessed in this particular way, which really doesn't make any sense. Like, she literally gave up her version of heaven to go fight, Sauron. because she couldn't lay down her sword because of her brother. And you kind of get this sense, well, is it really about her brother at this point? It really didn't feel that way. Felt like there was something about her personally that we weren't getting to see because she was so bent on that. Every bit of dialogue come back to that one thing. And because that one thing was so hollow, it made every bit of dialogue that she said hollow. We didn't even get to find out how she becomes such a good fighter. Like, we didn't get to find out anything. Did her brother teach her? Like, how did she become the best of all of them? Made no sense to me. Her plot made no sense to me in a lot of different ways. I just felt like she was a hollow hero, and I felt like this search for Sauron was just soulless in a lot of different ways. It felt soulless. Like, you're searching after a guy that you don't know was there, but he was the lieutenant of the main bad guy. But you search for him for hundreds of years, you find no evidence of him, but you still keep going. That makes no sense. Like, that seemed like a complete and total waste of time. You send out a search party looking for a villain. After a while, a year, 2 years, you're like, well, he's gone. He's not a threat to us anymore because we chased him across the globe, and I guess he's not there anymore. Maybe it was time to come home. But no, that's not what we get from her. From Galadriel, she has to go hundreds of years, and she'll spend the next million years, and she has to chasing down somebody that she doesn't even know is alive or not. That feels really like a soulless effort. Really did. And you really kind of got that from the way the other ones, her other soldiers that was with her, felt towards it. It's like we have gone well past what we were supposed to have been doing. Like, we've wasted our time. We've been away from home way too long. We need to come back and, enjoy our lives. That's personally the way I felt. I just felt like it's a soulless endeavor. It meant nothing simply because it only felt like it meant something to her. It didn't feel like it was something that was an imminent threat to any of them. And you could say, well, she was right. Well, it doesn't matter if she was right. If she spent the next couple of years, of course, if you live a lifetime of 1,000 years, well, you can expect that there's going to be another baddie that comes along during that time. I mean, duh. Like, that's just the way I look at it. It's stupid. Oh, well, she was right because she had to wait a couple hundred years for it to happen. Whoa. Well, whatever. I just felt like it was soulless. I didn't, going back to Galadriel's brother, I did not understand Sauron's sigil thing. I did not understand that. Sauron left his sigil on her brother. Like, okay. What was that supposed to mean? That I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. So that was wasted dialogue in my book, unless they come back to that a little bit later. And another thing, the Harfoots. The Harfoots feel like a homeless documentary. They literally feel like a homeless documentary. They are not interesting. They look like they need a bath. They look terrible in this show. They don't look anything like the Hobbits, in my opinion, at all. They look like just scavengers, and not in a good way. There's nothing interesting about them. I don't know why we had to spend so much time with them. I thought they were useless characters with useless dialogue. And, we got to see the wolf. That was when they were going after the berries. And then we didn't get to see the wolf again. I'm like, well, I guess that was useless. So I'm like, well, waste of time. Waste of time. Of course, they play a role because the guy falling from the sky and he falls with, they take care of him. But even that wasn't really that interesting, to be honest with you. So overall, not a big Harfoot fan. I just feel like overall, there's just so much stuff that's wrong with this show. And that really needs to be taken care of. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not 39% audience score bad. I would give it a good 6 out of 10, to be honest with you. Simply because, it does look beautiful. And I guess maybe there's enough of me that's interested in Lord of the Rings that I would, find it interesting. There's enough, Sauron's going to appear in some way, something's going to happen that would make me keep moving forward with this show. I'm not going to sit in and talk about all the various different characters. The elf that chased the orcs down the hole. There's a lot of that. That guy didn't interest me at all. But overall, I'll be generous. I'll be generous and I'll give it a 5 out of 10. I'll give it a 5 out of 10 because it was really plagued by bad CGI and jilted dialogue. Too many storylines and just not really enough character inspiration, in my personal opinion. That's what I would give it. You tell me what you would give it. I'm still hopeful. I still am hopeful that there'll be something more to it. I don't know if there will be. I'm a little bit worried. I'm not going to lie that this is unfortunately all we're going to get out of this. But if it is, it is. It's going to be mediocre at best. If they get better and they do something with these storylines, which there are some storylines, like the boy finding the sword hilt, that could be interesting of Sauron's. Let's see what that is all about. Overall, I would have been more inclined to enjoy that if it wasn't for the elf that went down the hole. I just didn't like that character. I didn't like his storyline. I didn't like the boy's mom. So overall, let's just see. I give it a 5 out of 10. Let's hope it gets better. As always, guys, let me know what y'all think in the comments down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know. And as always, thanks for watching. Y'all take care.